Peace, everybody. Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch,
Rob Joel.
and today is special for two reasons. One, we are going to recap the aftermath of an incredible welterweight fight that had a lot of serious implications in the sport itself, but also this is our 10th anniversary show. So Rob and I have been doing this for 10 years now, breaking down fights, being in the gyms, all that good stuff. And so, welcome, come celebrate with us. Anyway, we are going to recap and talk about what happened between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence this past Saturday for the undisputed welterweight title. And I'm going to really break down, really there was two to three things that Terence Crawford did to completely nullify Errol Spence and make him look like an ordinary fighter, which we all know that he isn't. But before I get into that, I want to let Rob talk about what he saw and what his thoughts about what happened on Saturday night. Take it away, bro.
I don't know what you saw, but I saw a 9-round beatdown. There was no way that anyone could fathom Terence Crawford just taking apart and dominating Errol Spence Jr. over the course of 9 complete rounds. I actually couldn't find any rounds to give to Errol Spence. There's argument for the first, but even then, that's a bit sad because that was just a feeling out round where not a whole lot was happening. Maybe just a little bit of trying to establish movement, getting loose, trying to see what the other man may have in their toolbox. And over the course of the rest of the fight, we just saw that Terence Crawford had a lot more in his arsenal to throw at Errol Spence. So much so, I think a lot of people must have lost either pride or money on this fight because there's all kinds of conspiracy theories going down about Errol Spence. And at the end of the day, there's only one distinct possibility. Crawford was just better that night. I mean, everything was A+ from the get-go. Terence Crawford's defense, offense, power, speed, footwork, ring IQ, it was all there. And at this point, I feel like he finally put the world on notice and the 147-pound division on notice, because there should be no question who's the man at that division at this moment. And right now, in my opinion, he is heads above the rest. And I really don't see much competition for him going forward from that fight. After that fight, maybe a couple of young guys, but after some of their past performances, they seem like they need a bit more seasoning before they take on this version of Crawford at this time in his career.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And we'll talk about some of those, I guess, conspiracy theories and the aftermath of what we saw on Saturday. But as far as what happened in the ring, if you watched the preview video, we did break down a couple of things that both guys do well and what we expected to see in the ring. And we expected to see a competitive fight with one guy eventually edging out the other. That ain't what we got. Like Rob said, this was one of the additions to the world's most one-sided ass whoopings caught on film. I don't know if y'all remember that. It was a Dave Chappelle skit.
No, that was Robot Chicken, actually. Was it Robot Chicken? Yeah.
But be that as it may, there's an addition there for that film series. But what was Crawford able to do to make Spence look so ordinary? And it was really an advanced version of something that you learn first day in the gym, which is your stance and your jab. And using those two things, he was able to completely nullify everything that Errol Spence does exceptionally well. We know that Errol Spence has a good jab. He took that away. All of Errol Spence's volume, pressure, and power comes off of him working that jab. And the way Crawford took it away was, one, knowing what everybody else knew coming in was that Errol Spence was going to come forward behind the jab and try to put the pressure on. So basically, he let Errol come to him, and whenever Errol tried to jab, he would take his head off of center. He would parry with his opposite glove. So his left glove would come up, and he'd swat it in either direction out of the way of his face, and he would jab with Errol. And that move alone stifled everything that Spence wanted to do. And because Terence was able to use his feet to get in and out of position and in and out of range deceptively, Spence never really knew where he was, which led to him sometimes overreaching and leaving himself open for the counter left. That is the pretty much the most simple way you can break down what Terence did in order to take away what Errol does best and make that fight look so one-sided, because we all knew that as the rounds go on and as the fight goes on, Errol usually punches a lot more and he starts to overwhelm his opponent. And one of the things was that Errol was good at punching with his opponents, and his opponents rarely punched with him. So that means Terence began to punch with him. And because he had faster hands, because he had more pop than probably they all thought about, he was able to completely nullify Spence because he was stopping him in his tracks when he did it. Errol had to reset. And the punches that were coming back were a lot harder than he thought. And so he was then knocked out of position, which allowed Terence to follow up with combinations. And when, like I spoke earlier, when he would overreach because he was trying not to be countered, he was opening himself up to hooks, uppercuts, body shots, and then Terence would just create a new angle and start all over again. It was a brilliant, masterful work of the basics expanded upon by him and his training team, Bomac and their team of conditioning coaches. It, like I said, sublime, beautiful, Picasso, masterpiece, all those good superlatives you want to throw out for it. It was there. What else you got, Rob?
Again, this is just one of the things that this is one of those fights that just shows how dynamic a fighter is. There were a couple of things that I've noticed, and granted, there's really no real way to emulate or copy what these guys can do in sparring. Even in real fights, there was really no one that Spence has fought that could have prepared him. I think the best might have been Ugas, Yordenis Ugas, but even then, he doesn't have the punching power of Crawford. While he is pretty difficult and he is a southpaw, you don't have to worry so much about getting knocked out by him.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talked about was the level of competition between these two guys that they have faced. Now, again, I think that's might be because Spence is under the PBC banner. That could be because he has fought more urban fighters. That could be for a plethora of reasons. But if you really take a
more
look
well-publicized fighters.
Well, more publicized fighters. But if you actually take a look at the skill level and the fighters that Crawford has faced, it has put him in a better position to take on a guy like Errol Spence because of the lights that they under the big lights. He's fought guys that's been more dynamic. He's fought guys that have been punchers. He's fought guys that have been Olympians, Olympic gold medalists. He's fought guys that have been undefeated. And I'm talking about they really were losing zeros to Crawford. Ever since that knockout he had at Brady's Prescott, followed up
That was actually
by
a decision.
the decision. The
Yeah.
win that he had versus Prescott, the win that he had versus Burns, the KO against Gamboa. It just from there, I don't even think he had a decision after that. Matter of fact, I'm
Postal
looking at his,
was the only one.
but we're talking about one decision
Yeah.
since 2015.
Yeah, it's a serious run. And I know like some of those names weren't as heavily known as the Danny Garcias, the Mikey Garcias, and the Sean Porters, which both of them beat. But those other three names are much bigger than what's my man, Me Machine, Kabliauskas, Jose Benavidez. It wasn't Joseph Benavidez, it was Jose Benavidez. Um, Gamboa, wow, like in boxing circles, his name was known. Probably wasn't known like to the average fan, even like some of the, I wouldn't say a hardcore fan, like they know about him, but I don't want to say casual because like that word has become a insult, which it shouldn't be. That's a soapbox for another day. Soapbox for another day. Anyway, um, he, like you said, he's fought really good fighters. They just didn't have that name recognition that some of the fighters that Spence had fought coming into the fight.
Correct. So, and and I hate to say it this way, but and I think I meant to say this in the preview, but Errol Spence, I'm not going to call him robotic, but when your real go-to is just turning up the heat, and this is not to underplay the guy's boxing skill because you don't get to 33-0 by being unskilled.
He was 28 and 0 with
28?
22 knockouts. Yeah.
Yeah, 28. I'm sorry. He's 33.
Yes. 33 years
20,
old.
28-0 without being skilled, and you don't get to that level without having the goods.
Right.
But Crawford, I don't know what people saw in Crawford that they just said it's not Spence, because what I saw in Crawford was the more he has fought, the more dominant he has been.
But that's one of
I've
the
seen
reasons why in the major circles, like not YouTube comment sections, you know, ours is pretty good though because we got some knowledgeable and objective fans. Like we don't have guys that are like, oh, I'm just gonna ride with this guy and they can't do any wrong. So shout out to y'all. Like I said, this is our anniversary show, and we've got a lot of people that's been watching us for a very long time, and I want to let y'all know we appreciate y'all. But when you talk to the professional fighters, the professional commentators, trainers, people that have been around the sport, they were like, this is a 50-50 fight. They didn't know who was going to win. And it was back and forth. But there were a lot more people starting to go with Crawford. And they were starting to say, like, hey, like this guy's more dynamic. And those are things that we laid out too. But then at the same time, we hadn't seen anybody put it all together versus Spence. We seen people have moderate success, and we thought that maybe Crawford could have an extended amount of moderate success. But even, he's fought some really good fighters, but he hadn't fought anybody like Errol Spence also. So
right.
that's what was so intriguing about the fight. It just turned out when they got in there, Crawford's game plan was vastly superior to Spence's game plan.
And you can attest to this. I think for the longest time I was like, I like both the guys. It's a tough call, but I'm going with Crawford. And I never really wavered on it. It was just I just thought that he could do too many things. I think he's probably been the closest thing to Floyd Mayweather as far as skill with punching power, as far as ability in the 147-pound division that I've seen. Um, he's probably the third best welterweight in the last 20 years.
Yeah, you got to put him behind Manny and Floyd because
Well,
the body of work isn't there quite yet, but it's damn impressive.
Oh yeah, that's why. The only thing is he has not had quite the resume, and and it's kind of difficult to see where his resume is going to go from here because there are guys at 147, but we're seeing. Remember, Kell Brook is retired, Sean Porter's retired, Danny Garcia has moved up to 154 for his next fight. We've got
We got one time.
huh?
I said we got one time.
Yeah, and he's around, but he's fought like 3 times in the last 6 years. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. He's calling out for a fight with Crawford, but does he really deserve it? I think most people are saying that like the next guy up, if it's not Spence in a rematch, which he wants, and I want to get into that, is Boots Ennis, who
And again, he
looks
is
great.
not ready. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think he's ready either. But then again, a lot of people didn't think Crawford was ready for Spence. And not only was he ready, he was vastly superior. So, give him the chance. But
Yeah, well, I mean, we could give him the chance, but it could also look like Mayweather versus Canelo as well. And the
oh
one thing,
yeah,
if there's PBC, they do not want to put a guy like Boots Ennis in against Crawford just yet. He doesn't have
yeah,
really have a true signature win on his resume. His last fight showed that he wasn't quite there. And for a guy in Crawford who can do so many things and has that much polish, that much experience, again, 40-0, which
and
means
he's on what
he
like a 10 fight knockout streak. It's ridiculous.
no, I think it's more than that.
Well, while you look that up, it looks like you're
Oh,
looking it
well,
up.
11. Yeah, it's
11,
11.
11, 11 knockouts in a row. That's I mean the only person I think that's the longest knockout streak outside of Better Be It, right?
Right. So and again, I think Boots Ellis, Boots Ennis is the
Ennis.
is the Ennis is the he's the goods. I think he's just young. Even with as many fights as he has for such a young age, I think that experience gap really means something. I mean, you could even say that against the Errol Spence Jr. fight because remember he still had. You're talking about 39-0 versus 28-0.
28. Mm-hmm.
That
Um,
can unless you're just heads above the rest, unless you're just moving fast like Monster Inoue, who basically had a belt at what 10-0 or something like that.
yeah, I mean that's those different circumstances, but yes,
Yeah, it's a different circumstance, but remember when Canelo fought Mayweather, he had a very long resume, but
yeah,
he didn't have any.
he turned pro at 15, so like
Exactly.
he had probably like 30 or so fights, but he was still growing as a young man. But he did face some decent names before he fought Mayweather, but that kind of like awakened a whole new beast afterwards. So you
Right.
know what's going to happen with Spence? Like maybe he's like, look, I got to get to it. Like I just realized I'm not at the level I thought I was, but I know how to get there. One of the things was like he was saying, doing a rematch and getting into some of those things that you were talking about earlier, which were the I guess the excuses or the conspiracy theories that like some of the fans were throwing out. Him being like weight drained and all that stuff. Unless he fixes those technical things that Terence Crawford took advantage of, doesn't matter what weight they fight at, he's going to lose.
And from
He
what I can
has to
see,
fix those.
from what I can see, Spence has not made any excuses. He will literally say, "Yeah, he beat my ass," and that's what it was. I mean, you got to give him credit for that because a lot of
Yeah.
people
Oh,
make a
he gets the credit, definitely.
yeah. It's like
Um,
everyone else, either tied to him or around him or just in the world, is making all these claims for me. He's just like, "No, I got beat." I mean, it's really simple.
that's why we respect the fighters and let them have their moments, and we're not gonna kick him while he's down because like he was the man. There's no doubt about that. Like he collected those 3 belts from some serious fighters. He is a
Mhm.
serious fighter, He just was not better than Bud Crawford. And as far as that's really all. Like I don't have anything else to say like about that, because I mean that's pretty much what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about possibly the rematch, and I've already talked about what I think is going to happen in that rematch. Especially if it's like an immediate rematch. Initially, Crawford was saying, "I'm gonna beat Errol Spence, and then I'm gonna go beat Jermell Charlo." But now he's going to fight Canelo. So if he wants to wait on that fight, he's got some time to wait in between there. Um, but Charlo has said after he fights Canelo, he's coming back down. So there are options there, but he could also like I don't know how he managed his money and all that good stuff, and I'm pretty sure he got paid stupid handsomely from this fight.
Oh
He
yeah.
could probably walk away. I know that like a lot of fans would hate that, but what a way to be like, you know what? What else do I have to say? I'm the only male two division undisputed champ. I knocked out my last 11 opponents. The best guy, the best biggest name that I fought on my resume, I completely dominated him. Walk away.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. I just looked up the purse and the prize money.
Okay. Lay it on us. What we got?
25 million per fighter. Jesus.
Woo! And I and the channel knows that I love me some MMA. Those men, and this is also more so directed towards fans, because nowadays everybody has a voice, and there are a lot of people who like to talk down on boxing and things like that. But when two men can make that amount of money, and that's probably more than like all of the top MMA fighters combined, which a lot of people use that as saying like, oh, like MMA ain't all that great. But I say it's a reason that we need to pay them more, because it is a great sport, and they have even more tools at their disposal and even more ways to lose. So why are they getting these peanut? And I know they putting butts in seats. I know they getting them pay-per-views, but a pay-per-view high-level boxing event is still the king of spectacle in the combat sports world.
I I think it's just I don't know if it's the simplicity. I don't know if it's the history. I don't know if it's just it just people like to fight and or what it is. And it's a lot of combat sports. There's a lot of popular ones. I mean,
Yeah.
judo and jiu-jitsu are very popular,
Yeah.
especially Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Um, Taekwondo and Muay Thai, depending on where you're at, are immensely popular.
Yeah, they are.
Depending on where you are as far as wrestling, I have seen some professional, not WWE, I'm talking about professional Greco-Roman freestyle wrestling that I come across, and I'm like, this is exciting.
Hey,
Hell, even
let's not put down WWE though, because a lot of
no,
our
no,
fighters have taken those blueprints and used them to make themselves very lucrative.
no, I'm not down in it, but we're talking about like actual not kayfabe, I'm sorry, but like combat sports, like actual like Olympic style wrestling. If you've ever sat down and watched that, it has been
Oh
some
yeah.
spec. Even I'm just looking at it like I have no idea how he made his leg do that, but he did it. And
Right,
even
right.
one was it one FC or one championship fight?
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, one FC. Because
Yeah,
that's where Demetrius Johnson is, and he's
e-
probably the best MMA practitioner out there.
exactly. And that itself is not just MMA. They do Muay Thai fights as well, and they're super entertaining. I remember K1 being around. Is what's my kickboxing association? Is it still
Glory.
around? Glory. I mean, crazy. But apparently boxing is king. These guys are making, when you get to that top level, millions of dollars, and they are very shrewd negotiators, the fighters and their teams and their advisors, very shrewd. And they're on big networks. All we just have to do is get them back on HBO, and you probably have the pinnacle of the sport again. So
I don't know. HBO ain't what it used to be, but there is some. They do need that. Like they do need that premium beyond pay-per-view type of outlet. I feel you.
yeah, I mean, Showtime is making money, so I don't understand why HBO couldn't bring it back. Maybe they will. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't even like is HBO like I don't even have cable, so like I don't know like what's like a channel anymore. But like like that kind of used to be the thing. Like you watch the Saturday night premiere on HBO, and then you had a great fight right afterwards. The
Yeah,
way TV works now is a little different, but people uh like Dana White and the UFC have capitalized on it. The PBC has capitalized on this new way of delivering fights to fans. Hopefully, it just spreads to those other organizations, and we have a lot more high visibility options to show that all these combat sports are great.
exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, once again, we want to thank y'all. If y'all hung out with us for like this last 30 minutes of this video, we greatly appreciate you. We greatly appreciate every comment we've ever gotten, every subscriber that we've had, all the new ones that will come from this video. Thank you. Make sure you all hit us up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, Capital Combat. And we will see y'all in the next video. Like I can't say thank you enough, because like this is a labor of love for Rob and I, and like we're not even in the same state anymore, but we love this so much that we still make it work. As y'all can see, we sitting here on Zoom. So thank y'all for watching us, and we hope to see y'all in the next video. Till then, fight on.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire, I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage, keep thinking that it's a game. I kick rhyme, hurricane. I told them I don't play, I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.